This section treats English sounds, stress and intonation, and this is part of the prerequisite for passing any examination on English language. So you have to understand what sounds are, what we mean by stress and what intonation means. Sounds in English language. There are 44 sounds in English language and they are further divided into two. We have the consonant sounds and the vowel sounds. There are 24 consonant sounds and 20 vowel sounds. The vowel sounds are divided into two. We have the monophthongs and the diphthongs. Monophthongs are also referred to as pure vowels. This diagram indicates the various organs of speech that we have. Before speeches can be made, there are certain organs of the body that make it possible for us to utter speeches. So looking at the diagram, you see the label. We have the tongue, the palate, the oral cavity, the velum, pharynx, lips, teeth, esophagus, and the rest. So this the diagram is talking about the organs of speech. And here is a chart describing the various consonant sounds we have. The diagram is about consonants, describing consonants based on how they are produced, where they are produced, and how they come out as individual sounds. So if you look through the diagram, you discover that there are labels. There is one to the left hand side, there is one on top, and then there is another one at the bottom of the diagram. To the left hand side, we have manner of articulation, and under manner of articulation we have labels like stop, which is also referred to as plosive, fricative, affricate, nasal, lateral, approximants, retroflex, approximants, and glide. That is to tell you that they describe how words or sounds are produced. Are they produced with obstruction? Are they produced with a blockage of air coming out from the mouth? Are they produced with a partial obstruction, and so on? These describe how sounds are produced, the manner at which they are produced. And then to the top of the diagram, we have a place of articulation. This implies places where sounds go through before they are molded into what exactly we want to produce. So under this we have labia. Labia has to do with the two lips. Bilabia has to do with the two lips. Labiodental is describing the upper teeth and the lower lip. Interdental has to do with the teeth alone. It is also referred to as dental. Then we have the alveolar, sounds produced with the tip of the tongue touching the alveolar ridge. We have the alveolar palata, that is when the body of the tongue is raised to the roof of the mouth. We have palatal sound, we have velar, we have glotta. All these describe organs of speech that are responsible for the production of individual sounds. Lastly, we have a state of the glottis. This describes whether a sound is voiced or voiceless. So those sounds with light background are voiceless sounds, while the one with shaded backgrounds are voiced sounds. So if we are to describe these sounds, we are going to pick them one after the other based on where they appear. So for instance, is a plosive bilabia voiceless sound because the background is not shaded, while b is a voiced bilabia stop sound. That is how we are going to apply the diagram to the description of each of these sounds. Consonant sounds. Like I said the other time, we have 24 consonant sounds in English language, and we are going to describe them. We can describe them based on the manner of articulation, place of articulation, and state of the glottis. So they are either produced with obstruction, complete or total obstruction, or partial obstruction in the obstruction of air coming from the lungs. So the obstruction determines whether a consonant sound is voiced or voiceless. So we have explained the places of articulation. We have the bilabial, alveolar, labiodental, dental, palatal, palato-alveolar, velar, glottis. And under manner of articulation, we have discussed the plosive sounds, which are usually produced with a total obstruction of air coming from the lungs and then a sudden release of the air. The fricative sounds with partial obstruction of air coming from the vocal tract, and then they are slowly released to make a continuous release of air. The affricates are sounds produced with total obstruction of air in the vocal tract. The nasal sounds, they are produced when the velum is lowered such that the air is allowed to pass through the nose instead of passing through the mouth. We have the lateral sounds. They are produced with obstruction of air at the center of the mouth, but a free flow of air at the two sides of the tongue. That is, the tongue will prevent the air from coming out of the front of the mouth, but the air will be released on both sides of the tongue. Approximant sounds are sounds that are produced with free flow of air. There is no obstruction at all. So air, they call them semi-vowels or glides, and we have two of them. We have sh and who. Another one is retroflex approximants, and there is only one sound under this category. It is produced with partial closure at the center of the mouth, but with vibration between the articulator and the place of articulation. And like I said, the state of the glottis will tell whether a sound is voiced or voiceless. Therefore, from there we are going to start with each individual sounds, and there is an arrangement. We are going to follow the consonant chart that I showed you at the earlier part of the lesson. So we are starting with P. It is produced with a partial obstruction of air coming from the vocal tract, and then when the air reaches the mouth, it is gradually released. It is released suddenly. It is released suddenly, such that it causes a minimal vibration in the throat. So it is a voiceless bilabial plosive sound, and P can appear at the initial, middle, and final position of words. What do I mean by this? I mean the sound can appear in the beginning of a word, something like pot. The pot has P at the beginning of the spelling. At the middle, you can have something like the part. But the P in the sound is appearing in the word is appearing in the middle, and then we can have a P at the final position, which we have an example like a top. So it can appear at the initial, middle, and final positions of words. The spellings, you can find the sound in spellings like P, PH, and double P. Now let us look at these sounds examples. At the initial stage, you can have pit, pot, pork. So P is realized in the beginning of these words. At the middle position, proper, complete, dispute. At the final position, we have peep, step, cap. Please note that the sound can be silent in some words. For instance, the PSALLM, which is pronounced as sam, does not reflect the sound P, although P as an alphabet is in the spelling of the word. So this is to tell you that the physical representation of an alphabet does not determine the spelling, the pronunciation. You really have to understand how the word is pronounced in order to decide what sound is responsible for its production. So sam does not reflect P. The same thing is applicable to pneumonia. The P in that word is silent. Empty. It is not empty. The P there is silent, so the sound P does not reflect in the word. Psychology. Psychology in that P in psychology is not voiced. It is a silent P. Diaphragm. Photo. Receipt. It is not receipt. It is not receipt. It is receipt. Coup, not coup. Physics, not physics. Philosophy, not philosophy. So all these and some other words do not contain the sound P, but only have the sound in their spellings. Another sound is B. B. The sound is produced with total obstruction of air in the oral cavity, therefore it is a voiced sound. It causes a lot of vibration in the vocal cord. It is a voiced bilabial plosive sound. It is bilabial because when you produce the sound, the two lips will come together. So the sound can be realized at the